crushed. Bicycles pass. Look out! Blue light, red light, gas pedal, brake squeal. I'm turned on. A cap is raised. Buddha is wearing a hat. I scribble this on the wall where I was sitting in black Sharpie marker. My venerable tag. Okay, meanwhile, in the present. It's an odd feeling hearing someone else read your own words back to you, especially when they sound hollow and forced. It's almost the equivalent of hearing them spoken in a different language. I find myself drifting to far-off places, while the shrink talks. Let's talk about this here journal entry number 114, I believe. You were living on the streets in California as a bum, correct? My therapist asks. I prefer homeless pilgrim, but if that's what it says, I reply. You were living as a bum before or after meeting Dr. Failer? What time are you referring? I met the doctor several times, and please don't call me a bum. Chicago. After. Do you still believe he was involved in a conspiracy to kill you? What is this, an investigation? No, of course not. The doctor had no idea the evil that thing of his was capable of committing. As a matter of fact, it was all coming back. I feel like I just talked to him. Didn't I? Wait, that can't be right. Jesus. The doctor is dead. He's been dead for some time. But I was beginning to feel the brain death dizziness again. I felt myself slipping in and out of consciousness. I think you had better elaborate, because what it sounds like to me is these writings are the delusions of a deranged drug addict who is suffering from serious psychological trauma. I can't help you unless you let me in. Listen, Sue, it's all in the journal, okay? What you have to understand is these writings of mine, they're everywhere. A scattered mess of scribbles across the country. Some like the ones you just read I wrote when I was down and out. Yes, but there's an entry number 114. There specifically where you romanticize Skid Row. Late one night in downtown LA, I skidded past a hotel rooftop party thing. I would have gone in, but I took one look at my clothes and I decided it was probably not my scene. So I went somewhere else. That's all. It was a strange part of my life then. Skating the LA streets with no particular direction. I don't remember much of those days. And not because of drugs, but because I never stayed anywhere for more than a day or two. It all felt like one big blur. And what about Dr. Failer? I don't want to talk about the doctor. You need to talk about Dr. Failer with somebody, for your own sake. This was going nowhere. I was beginning to feel anxious. What was happening to me? I decided to change the subject. I want to tell you how I'm doing. For instance, I've been going to job interviews at my father's request, who tells me, brain over brawn, son. But that's okay, because that's my life now. It's not adventurous or life-threatening. There's no more near-death experiences or psycho-malfunctioning hyper-intelligent beings trying to kill me. I wear collared shirts and carry a ballpoint pen, but it's not that bad, because if I try real hard and close my eyes, it almost feels as if nothing ever happened. As if I never left home in the first place, and here I am, 5 years later, waiting for something to change. Nothing will change unless you change, my therapist says, looking up from her clipboard. I've been a lot of places. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done some things that I'm not proud of, but does that mean I should go to hell? I know the feeling. You do? I haven't always been a therapist, you know, she says. You don't know what it's like. It is our fear of death that keeps us in line. I don't fear death. What do you fear? I grip the crucifix tighter. God. Journal entry number 120. My life has changed dramatically since the day I left Michigan. I remember that day like it was yesterday. My friends, Bojangles, Crystal, and David, showed up in my hometown to pick me up. We spent the night at Francois's house and watched as America elected its brand new 45th president. I remember thinking it was an interesting coincidence that the start of our journey should coincide with the political election, almost as if the results mattered, almost as if in some parallel universe, by means of an excruciatingly painstaking process, the world was somehow moving around us, and not, as I so often felt, we were moving around within it. We left the next day, early in the morning. We stocked the van with guitars and groceries and drove as far as we could, stopping only to refill on caffeine, gas, and cigarettes. We ended up stopping just south of the Michigan border at one of the coastal nature parks. I remember climbing a giant hill that required us to hike a good 2 to 3 miles up a rather steep incline, but it was worth it, if not strictly for the view. If you really peered out into that open flat water of the Lake Michigan coast, one could just make out the shadowy silhouette of Chicago's skyline, way off in the distance. Along the way, I met some kid who was hiking along the path, who happened to be smoking some grass. "Want to try some?" he asked. I grew up myself. We all humbly obliged, and found ourselves on quite the existential hike. The pleasant walk gradually took on biblical proportions. The higher we ascended, the higher we felt, and it wasn't until we reached the very highest point that we all decided it was a good time to eat the mushrooms I had acquired for our journey. We split 7 grams between the 3 of us, making it roughly a little over 2 grams each. These were called gold caps, very potent and very strong. I started to feel words come out of my mouth, but they felt like a stranger's words, and before long it was as if I was speaking a foreign language. I looked around, and nobody understood what I was saying, and for some reason I remember finding this hilarious and also slightly troubling, for it occurred to me that I talked this way all the time. I thought to myself, I wonder how much of my talking people never understand. It became rather like an existential crisis. We were all painting on top of this hill, and I dropped my paints. Suddenly there was a moment of complete catharsis, some deep contentedness I likened to pure bliss. Ego death. Something inside me told me that all efforts to otherwise satisfy the ego were in vain, for there was no fooling the force of love, true love, and instead of scaring me, it empowered me in a strange sort of letting go way. The rest is history. I can't explain it any better than that, because when I stood up I felt what must have been the energy of the entire cosmos filling me up, and something akin to Christian mythology took over my being. The closest description I can think of is I felt the presence of him. You know, Jesus. It was just a pure, overwhelmingly benevolent force, as real as any feeling that I've ever felt. Only it wasn't like being possessed or in a dream. It was real, from the deepest part of my being. I remember I had incense burning in my hand, and I offered it up as a prayer, as a tribute to life, as if I had done this act 1,000,000 times before. This is my life, given up for you. Take this, for it is the only gift I have left to give, my life. It seems so simple. Needless to say, I was silent for almost 3 days after that, and I tried and failed to write about the experience many times, but all attempts to explain or justify what had occurred with words seemed to fall incredibly short of my experience. But I did know one thing. Our journey had just begun. Buckle up, kid. You're in for a wild ride. The present. There was a long silence. The only sound was the ticking of the clock in my therapist's office. "So you're willing to admit to indulging in hallucinogens?" she asks. I'm far from perfect. I was experimenting at a time in my life where I was ripe for understanding. They were positive experiences I wouldn't trade for the world. Aren't you worried about losing credibility with your audience? I leave the judging up to God. Plus, what do you care about my audience? I would just like to see my patients be successful. That's all. I want to help you help yourself. I want to see you get healthy and make something of yourself. Maybe make a little money in the process. You sound like Herman. He's always so quick to make changes. Take this out, take out that, add this. What about my creative vision? I felt the temperature of the room rising again. There was the start of a smile growing on her face. I couldn't tell if it was because of what I was telling her or what I wasn't telling her. Is that what Dr. Failer wanted? Is that why you chose to omit certain pages? Does Herman have the original manuscript? Where's the original RAD script now? I started to see her face morph into a contorted reddish brown. Her eyes were ablaze with tiny fires burning in the center of her pupils. I tried to look away, but I couldn't. I felt beads of sweat pouring down my forehead. My vision turned black. Horns were growing. I could feel them out of the corners of my temples. I suddenly felt nauseous, and an uncontrollable urge to run took over, only I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, so I shut my eyes, squeezing them tight as I could. It was all I could do to stop from staring. I gripped the crucifix and said a silent prayer. All flesh is as grass, and all its glory as the flower of grass. The grass withered, and the flower has fallen, but the words of the Lord endures. I tried to think of heaven again. I thought of Crystal and Bo. I thought of my sister and my parents, and I thought of a California sunset over the ocean. I imagined the mountains and the desert, and all the other pleasant memories I can think of. I tried to muster all the goodness within my power. I began to cry. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the clouds again, bathing in the warm, comfortable ambience of golden sunlight. I heard the trumpets blaring, and I heard the choir of angels singing. There were fat, rosy-cheeked cherubs flying in the distance next to dancing seraphim, and all of it was calling me towards this majestic paradise on the other side of the pearly gates. St. Peter, I beg of you, let me in. Please show mercy. I can't take any more of this earthly plane. It's filled with greed and devils. My own demons haunt me in the mirror, and I feel my own sanity slipping away like sand in between my fingers. Please, I am ready for salvation. You're not alone. You're never alone. It was a familiar voice, but I could not find the source. I spun around quickly, but saw no one. Who's there? Who are you? Show yourself! Dr. Alfred Failer was standing in front of me. We're both in the same boat, you know. You and I, that is. We're both stuck in the middle, somehow. Not fit for heaven, but not bad enough for hell. Is that supposed to make me feel better? How did you get here? I asked. I died, remember? But unlike you, I won't get another chance. How many chances do I get? As many as it takes. You must correct our wrongs, my boy. Our? I don't even know what wrongs I committed. I mean, which of my mortal sins hath condemned me to this limbo? That's neither here nor there, but listen to me close. We haven't got much time. I need to ask you a favor. You need to destroy all the evidence, please. If people knew what I was responsible for creating, I would be labeled a murderer, or worse. You can't let that happen, I'm begging you. But Dr. Failer, people need to know. People need to know the truth. I believe it was Einstein who said imagination is more important than knowledge. And wasn't it you who told me Einstein didn't believe in life after death either? Can you imagine if old Uncle Albert could see us now? So, what's next? How do we get out of here? pray. I awoke to the sounds of my own sobbing. There was sweat dripping down my forehead, and I was on the ground in the fetal position. Several people were hovering over me, performing CPR and breathing into my lungs. Someone had stuck some type of counteractive needle into my leg, and I coughed and sat up again, feeling dizzy and faint. Where am I? Where's St. Peter? Somebody help! I passed out again. I lost consciousness. 3:14 a.m. When I finally did wake up, Herman was sitting there at the edge of my bed. His head was down and he was smoking a cigarette. He started talking to me, gritting his teeth. They think you had an allergic reaction to the medication. Are you mixing it with something? Your parents think you relapsed again. I told them it wasn't true. I told them you kicked that demon a long time ago. Tell me they're wrong. Tell me you didn't start using again. Am I dreaming? I could hardly see straight. I read most of the journal last night. There are still some pages missing. Where's the rest of it? Herman says, shaking me violently. You've got to come clean with this story. Your therapist has been calling me. She's interested too. She says she can help you get it published. Get your feet on the ground. Don't trust her. I felt a shooting pain go through my heart. I clutched it in agony. I need the rest of the story if we're going to publish. As it stands, the thing is a jumbled mess. There are people out there who want to know what Dr. Failer was working on. Herman, not now. Can't you see I'm dying? Quit being so dramatic. He slaps me hard across the cheek. Where's the rest of the journal? Where are the missing pages? What missing pages? Earlier that evening, Susan Bromide, the therapist better known as the Shrink, is lying comfortably in bed reading the missing pages she acquired. There's a look of earned satisfaction on her face as she licks her index finger and silently and determinedly begins to read. This ought to be good. The past. Still traversing in the aftershock. She is rocky, like waves crashing on shore, gaining more and more momentum with each crest. Damn. What am I saying? I'm a scientist, damn it. Quick, would you grab my glasses and hand them to me? Dr. Failer is scrambling across the room, flicking switches, turning breakers, scribbling notes, inputting data into a giant keyboard where fancy lights flicker across an equally giant screen at the far end of the laboratory. There were weird noises too, like old internet dial-up sounds, and static power lines permeating through the room like sonic lasers. I'd coincidentally run into the good doctor, again, earlier today. I saw him riding his bike along the coast. He invited me into his lab. He kept saying, "You're good for bouncing ideas off of. Like, I like you. I need someone who doesn't know anything." He never even commented on the strange coincidence of us meeting again all the way across the country. He simply acknowledged we had met before. I got the sense that if I were to ask him when or where, he wouldn't have a clue in the slightest. "Come on, my boy," he said. "You're not going to want to miss this. Epiphany is all set to send and receive. Should be popping out another RAD script any minute now." He told me many times that I should feel honored at the chance to watch him work. He usually doesn't allow anyone, even fellow scientists and engineers, to do so. "'Tis bad for creative juices," he'd say. "I need complete and utter privacy when I work." But for whatever reason, he let me watch, and it was enlightening to say the least. This is where the magic happens, you see. He was pointing to what looked to be a glowing purple pyramid made of metal and glass in the center of the room. "That's her brain, and all the other info from the rad script comes out there," he said, pointing to a printer-like machine on the other side. This time he was acting especially peculiar, in a state of near mania. He was moving so quick from one thing to the next that he became exhausting to even watch. He seemed to answer my questions before I thought of them. I'm actually less of a physicist these days and more of a spiritual overseer circumventing the cosmos with haste and unlimited amount of time. Seems to go on forever, doesn't it? Yes, well, yesterday, actually, on the beach, I wrote this poem about that. I tried replying, but I got the sense he wasn't listening. Don't you feel like sometimes ideas just drop from the sky and you can pick them up at leisure? The doctor asks, still busily going from one thing to the next. Well, as a matter of fact, I was trying and failing at holding his attention. He was writing now, scribbling equations on a chalkboard. I really get caught up in the beauty of mathematics. Is that so wrong? It's a lost art as far as I'm concerned. I never made that extra effort to focus on the aesthetics of numbers. It was always more about the substance behind whatever I was doing that actually mattered to me. I was raised in the age of computers and unlimited font choices, but now I really see it for what it is. Numbers are to be loved, seen as a miracle to be cherished. When I'm done here, Epiphany will have a mind of her very own. No two moments will ever be the same. Infinite possibilities. Really? That's cool, I say, inspecting the purple pyramid. I noticed a tree growing in the center. Call it divine intervention. I called out upon something higher, and in return, God revealed herself to me. I have a feminist friend who says God is a woman. I mumbled, knowing he wasn't listening. The proof is in science. The proof is in dreams, making them a reality, manifesting the truth. Whoa, what? Hang on a second. Did you just say a woman? A red light near the ceiling started blinking and an alarm started going off. Excuse me? I said. He was at the computer now, typing furiously. I'm relaying the AI signals via satellite to tune into the frequencies of different planets as a test, of course. I'm trying to slowly but surely leak information into Epiphany's processor. If I do too much, it will overload her circuits, but too little, and I won't get a response. Seems like you should maybe start with something smaller, like showing her a picture of a fish or something. Hang on a second, I'm getting a response. The purple pyramid started glowing, pulsing rather, at irregular intervals. This is it, my boy. So now that you know, let's do some leaps through the universe, shall we? The doctor was pushing buttons and pulling levers manically. I wanted to tell him I was having the familiar but rare experience of deja vu. I just witnessed the past flash by, except it was a future me aware of it. I can't explain it. Spirituality! It's the knowledge of all that you find absolute. Songs unchangeable. All that you know gathered up, hunted down, and then digitized. Ending where it began, so to speak. Alpha and Omega. Damn! This processor is running slower than a snow sled through a big pile of slush. I haven't worked through hard drives like this since forever. A red light started blinking and another alarm went off. That doesn't sound good, I say. Damn! I keep forgetting to recalibrate the red chip. He begins scouring the tabletops looking for something. She's blocking the response signal. She doesn't want us to see what her output messages are. If I didn't know any better, I'd almost say she was hiding something. No, that can't be right. That'd be something, eh? First ever secret by a machine? She's rebelling like a teenager, the doctor said. It's sticky, that growing up stuff. All of a sudden, there was a high-pitched squeaking noise. Everything went black. The printer started printing out sheets of paper one after another in one long, continuous roll of paper that must have been 100 feet long. Afterwards, the only thing still lit was the pyramid, which was now pulsing brighter than ever and at more frequent intervals. Do me a favor, my boy, and hit that breaker switch behind you, thanks, the doctor asked me. It says do not pull, I say hesitantly. Just do it. I turned around and pulled the giant lever. He continued talking, but I got the sense it was not directed at anyone in particular. The lights began to flicker. Static appeared on all the screens. If you really want to expand consciousness, you must allow your mind to be at rest. Let it drift to the far-off reaches of space, like a satellite probe floating without gravity. Allow yourself time to think. Now, repeat after me. My future is understanding. Understanding is my future. Understand the power of the imagination to move space and time. I heard a strange electrical whizzing popping sound, and all the lights in the lab flicked back on. The power of gravity. Something worth far more than all the gold in the universe. Expand. Is a power, a gift. Do not numb your brain with food or television, my boy. Do not waste this precious gift, I beg of you. I noticed the red, blinking chip glowing on the desk, glimmering like a polished ruby gem. The lights began to grow dimmer. The room went dark again. Silence. "No problem," he said, yelling through the blackness. "Just a shortage. Power failure. You understand. I'll have to run some more tests." He started ushering me out of the room. "I need to be alone for a while. Goodbye. We'll be in touch." And just like that, he slammed the laboratory door in my face and left me standing there, squinting against the brightness of a mid-afternoon California sun. I felt the weight of the small yet precious ruby-colored chip in my pocket. I wonder what you do, I asked myself. Back in L.A. I spent the rest of the day exploring, trying to score white boxes of leftover food. Glorious, I know. Food always has a way of finding me whenever I'm hungry, and for that reason, it has always felt like a blessing when it does. Back to the present. When you say felt the weight, are you saying you stole Dr. Failer's red computer chip? What were you insinuating? My therapist asks. I'm half awake and the medication is kicking in. She's no longer the devil, but who invited the pink elephant? I didn't steal it on purpose. I didn't know what it was. I was just a kid back then, Sue, I respond. Tell me, what else do you remember? Keep in mind I want to hear the story exactly as you remember it, she asks. I remember scoring pizza from Two Boots. I think it was Two Boots, because I remember eating at the same place in the East Village in NYC with Bo a year earlier. I thought it was odd that the same restaurant would be in Echo Park off Sunset Boulevard on the West Coast. So I had to see for myself. Did they have any leftovers? She is scribbling something on the clipboard. Yeah, they were just about to close and throw some away. And just like that, voila, gourmet dinner for two? She lets a giggle slip, and I get the impression she's toying with me. Well, it wasn't always that easy. I remember driving around all Thanksgiving looking for a free meal to no avail. We ended up buying some tortillas and cheese and canned beans and frying up quick burritos in the park. I remember it like it was yesterday. Her expression suddenly changed. What did you do with the network blocker key? What happened to Dr. Failer? How do you know about that? I thought I took those pages out, I replied in horror. You mean these pages? She says, holding up a stack of ruffled papers, grinning devilishly. Where did you get those? Chapter 4. Affectation. The bum sitting on the corner is not actually a bum at all, but a carefully disguised, well-to-do artist and father of four. He tells me, back in the army I was delivering so many babies overseas, delivered well over 500 actually, that this old Buddhist monk came up to me and he blessed me. He said, son, you've earned enough good karma to last you and everyone around you for the rest of your life and into the next. Can you believe it? His pants were covered in paint stains. He was sitting under the Electric Avenue street sign, where he had emptied the contents of his entire shopping cart, and subsequently everything he owned. It was as if an old army vet turned hippie set up a garage sale and never left. Be careful, he tells me with this strange look in his eye. The only danger here is not something you can see. It goes far deeper than that. The CIA, the NSA, the FBI, they all move in circles, chasing their own tails, so to speak, screwing the proverbial pooch. And what do we do about it, the people? Me? You won't catch me dead with a cell phone or a Facebook. Hell, I don't even use automatic sinks anymore. You think I'm gonna let my life go to on autopilot so a bunch of perverts in suits can watch me take a shit from a satellite? Hell no. Put me on the cross, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. No, sir. I'm a regular, old-fashioned human being, and I'll be damned before I let some fancy-dancy handheld Babylonatron, that's Babylonian for cell phone, Give me cancer. I've seen what those people on television are selling. Damn nice smiles. Politician smiles. I sneezed. Bless you. Whatever happened to just biting the bullet and living off the land? I skated onward, leaving my homeless brethren to revel in his good karma. I reached the beach finally and saw Phoenix, an overzealous local psychic whose powers of perception in the mystic arts were only slightly skewed by the eye patch and empty bottles of whiskey. I found him like I did almost every day on the beach, for he was a creature of habit, lying flat on his back with one leg straight and the other crossed over his knee so they resembled the number 4, and also, ironically, resembled the image of the hanged man in tarot. He was sleeping with his pit bull next to a cardboard sign that read, "Free tarot reading. Inquire Phoenix Brightnose." "Phoenix, wake up. I need a reading ASAP. I think there's someone following me." He rolled over on his side, tucking his hands underneath his head, and continued snoring. "The rapture is here! Abandon your post, soldier!" I yelled spontaneously. He swung his body around and twisted himself up simultaneously, wiping the drool from his mouth and assuming a boxer's fisticuffs. "Where are they? Damn fascists!" "Phoenix, you're awake. There's the has-been I know and love. You know the rules. You gotta pay me if you wake up." "Since when? What do I look like, a yuppie?" "Check the fine print." He pointed to the small, barely legible sentence at the bottom of the cardboard sign. "Says it right there." Sure enough, in small print just below the advertisement for free tarot, it read, "Services are not free if inquirer wakes the psychic from sleep. Doubled if you're a yuppie." "I don't have cash, but how's a nice chunk of this citrine I got from Button Guy?" "Throw in that malachite necklace you're wearing, and we'll give you a crystal ball prophecy, too." "We? Me and the pooch?" "You got yourself a deal," I say, shaking his hand. We do the exchange, and he takes a long swig of whiskey before throwing the empty flask over his shoulder. It hits his dog in the head. The dog doesn't flinch. Phoenix shuts his one eye and very seriously moves his hand over a crystal ball. He opens his eye. The reflection of the ball can be seen in his pupil, and it has an eerie purple glint to it. "I see a kid. He's skating on the boardwalk. He kicks his skateboard along the cement waves of paradise, shifting his weight back and forth, surfing the concrete like water, the electric earth. Down Electric Avenue, California. It's the most beautiful place to be free. Could life get any simpler than this? Giving all the time, perfecting the art of selflessness and love, growing exceedingly grateful with each powwow, but wait. Now, I see a darkness. Very evil presence lurking about. Something is running amok. A purple pyramid? I'm looking at the statue of the Buddha. Its eyes are spinning red! Phoenix screams and opens his eye. "Such darkness I've never seen!" "Come on, Phoenix, stop messing with me." "A psychic never messes. Do you have any pot by chance?" "Just do the damn reading, please, or give me back my crystal." Phoenix closes his one eye and restarts the ritual. This time I see a sunny, breezy, sandy heaven, rolled into the mixed bag of bus-riding mamas and groove cats sidestepping the law for a chance to impregnate their lovers at cheap motels. This character and that. Dumpster dive trash. A woman drinking wine and eating pecan pie. No, that can't be right. "Focus!" I yell. Okay. I see a slow-developing photograph of Venice at sunrise. Sunsets in the west, giant rainbow, hum-chum sex, piddle-paddle, bush pea, tent city off Rose Street. I see a redhead in a short skirt walking for miles to dig all these cosmic gifts. Very short skirt. I wonder where she's going. Oh, Jesus! Phoenix, focus, please, for the love of God! Okay, here we go. I see you now. Crystal clear, no doubt it's you. You're riding your skateboard down the boardwalk, it's nighttime. You're smiling the biggest smile I've ever seen. There's music playing, a pretty girl, police. Oh no, it's getting dark. Very dark energy. Hopelessness, fear, paranoia. I see the statue of the Buddha again. It's angry. You're screaming for help. There's a black car with tinted windows and a glowing red computer chip. Wait, salvation? I see a teardrop tattoo and candles burning at a vigil mourning the passing of someone you know. Sorry, mate. It all goes black after that. What do you mean? There's gotta be more. Nothing. Nada. No más información. If you're messing with me, Phoenix, this is a whole nother level of messed up. What do you mean? There's gotta be more. I told you. A psychic never messes. If they are, then they're a phony. Now about that malachite necklace. A deal's a deal. Now pay up, yuppie. Screw you! I take the necklace off and hand it to him. Thanks for nothing, I guess. You still want a tarot reading? Yeah, sure, although I don't know how much more bad news I can take. He started shuffling the cards, cutting the deck with masterful speed. Last time you gave me a tarot reading, you made it sound like I was going to jail. Well, did you? Definitely not. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I almost did. I talked the cop out of a ticket. What happened? There were 5 of us, plus the dozens hanging around. 2 beers were sitting there, and I yelled, "I love Venice!" A little too loudly, I guess, but I was feeling it, and it seemed like an appropriate last hurrah to cap off our jam sesh. Naturally. And they didn't arrest you? Well, they needed a fall guy. Don't tell me you snitched. Hell no! All eyes turned to this acoustic bass player who's all like, "What beer, officer? Never seen that before in my life." He was there at the band's conception and thus sole proprietor to any and all due credit, so he was absolved in my book. He was jamming the Red Hot Chili Peppers when I found him, and I think that's what attracted the man in goth gear dressed from head to toe. Just a dude wearing thick black boots, sporting authentic-looking demon horns. He said, "Not mine, sir," and started casually backing up, so he was out. Then there was the homeless veteran bum with the beat-up guitar, but I think he disappeared before the heat showed up. And how could I forget about the rookie kid who barely knew his chops? But he looked scared out of his wits, so of course it comes down to me. I would have gotten out of there too, but because I fell flat on my back with a smile as wide as the Venice sign, I was caught cold. I looked up to my dismay to find the boys in blue looking down at my smiling face. "Whose beer is that?" "Wasn't even drinking, sir," I said, and he goes, "Well, it better be somebody's or all of you are going to jail." And of course, I couldn't let that happen, so I was like, "That's my cue." "What did you tell them?" "What did you tell them?" Phoenix asks. I said, "Listen, officer, I'm going to be honest." I got real close to him and leaned in, and I said quietly in a hush-hush tone, "Sir, to be completely honest, it's not mine, but I am willing, if I have to take the rap, if it comes down to it." "And they let you go?" "Yep, by some miracle he told us to scram. I was thanking my lucky stars that night." Phoenix started singing. "Yeah, I know for sure that life is beautiful around the world." "How'd you know? That was the song the bassist was playing." "Lucky guess. Anyway, here's your cards. Just letting you know they're hot, so be prepared. They're coming out fast." "All right, I'm ready. Hit me." He flipped the first card. Past. Devil. Next card. Present. The Fool. Next card. Future. Death. "Those are not good cards," I said, staring down at the graven images. "Not good at all." "Well, not necessarily. Let's have a look here." Phoenix started moving his hands over the cards, hovering just inches above them, just like he did with the crystal ball, closing his one eye in concentration. "You have something in your past, something dark, something you did. Perhaps leftover guilt from a crime of passion or an act of impulsive behavior. There's a lot of dark energy surrounding you. You must be careful not to hold on to this energy. Don't be consumed. Don't let it follow you. This presence can be hindering to your growth as an individual. Correct your wrongs and move on." I sat there for a moment reflecting and letting Phoenix's words sink in before I responded. "You know, it's funny. I have been getting this really strange feeling lately that someone is following me, but I figured I was just being paranoid." This card here, the present, the Fool. This is a card of optimism. Trust in your life that things will work out. You're obviously a traveler. Like the Fool, you thrive on new experiences and new beginnings. But be wary. Starting over isn't always better than seeing something through. Right now, you are having trouble finding guidance, lack of direction. The will is there, but no destination. No one is going to take someone seriously who doesn't know where they're going. I get the sense you want to be taken seriously. Yeah, well, doesn't everybody? Next card. Your last card, the future, death. Isn't technically that the future for everyone? No. You should be worried. This card just reinforces the dark energy following you. I fear if it's not your own death, then it will be someone very close to you. I'm sorry. Don't sweat it. I don't believe in this stuff anyway, I say, walking away. Well, you should. This is no easy job. Yeah, I'm sure sleeping in the sun all day is really hard work. Are you going to the drum circle tonight? Phoenix asks, ignoring my sarcasm. Yeah, I'll be there as long as the cops don't break it up again. I doubt it. It's not in the cards. Thanks for the reading. See you later. No, you won't. Cops are always on everyone's mind here. I learned later of the new beach patrol tactics, the latest in anti-bum technology. A swift fleet of swarming drones that buzz and hover in the sky like mechanical bees. Their tiny cameras a swift and subtle stinger, for to stare at them, or even look up, is to submit to some type of wrongdoing. The latest in an onslaught of recent assaults against impromptu gatherings of epic proportions. Here on the beach, it's us versus them. Mama, take this badge off of me. Which reminds me of another peculiar event worth mentioning. I've been getting increasingly paranoid feelings as of late. Ever since my meeting with Dr. Failer, I have been having this feeling of impending doom. I wish I had never taken that shiny red chip from his laboratory. I can't explain it, but today as I was crossing the street, I went to push the crosswalk button, and as the crosswalk light started counting down, I could have sworn green turned purple. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but I can't stop thinking of Dr. Failer's machine. I need to get off the grid. It's time to contact some of my deadhead friends. Whenever I need a break from Babylon, whenever the city has become too much, whenever peace, comfort, and nature call me, it is them who answer the call. In no time flat, they'll be setting up bases for the weary and tired traveler, the soldiers of light. It's time to dance in the free, lawless land of the forest, making food and otherwise reconditioning myself from the monotonous thrall of the hustle and bustle. To escape the daily grind, find peace and comfort in family and food, space to think and unwind, to reconnect with nature and unplug. That is, after all, where the romantic kindling of Crystal and Bo's fire started in the first place. Had it not been for the deadhead gatherings, I would not be here right now. Mama, put my guns in the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. For the time being, I'm stuck. I blame the continued reliance of such technology as my Babylonatron, aka cell phone, that has more or less, for lack of a better term, become hardwired into my programming. Which reminds me, also on that note, my cell phone has been dropping calls lately. I've yet determined if there is a significant connection between this and the feeling of paranoia on the street. Also, another coincidence worth mentioning is the calls I've been getting, with terrifying synchronicity, from unknown numbers. But when I answer them, all I hear on the line is a sort of whiny static, which also reminds me of the incident that happened with the television. Not once, but twice, when purple static appeared as I was walking by. Enough is enough. Is it just me? Note to self. I have to do some research about what this red chip does exactly. I remember Dr. Failer mentioning something about using a red chip to prevent Epiphany from accessing information off the grid. so maybe it's some kind of EMP device that blocks electrical signals. Come to think of it, I did have trouble logging onto the internet at the library today. I guess I can understand why it'd be so valuable then. But if that's the case, why am I getting calls from strange numbers? Shouldn't that be precisely the kind of thing the red chip is designed to prevent? I'm afraid if I returned to Dr. Failer's laboratory and asked him, he would be very angry at me for taking it. Maybe I'll go back and put it exactly where I found it. I'm sure he doesn't even know it's missing yet. How important could it be, anyway? It's getting dark, too dark to see. Journal entry number 121, Los Angeles, California. Here I sit in the dingy afterglow of heaven's finest. There are angels here, demons too. Every kind of love is here, nestled under the cosmic microscope. Orgasmic, tantalizing, sandy heaven. Indeed, there are times when I'm walking alone, whistling in the dark, the sidewalks lined with night-timing palm trees and dreamy foggy landscapes illuminated by the distant Venice lights. Alive on a Sunday. What is there to say? Magic is in the air, and here every man lives like a king, even the bums. Today was a day to be loved. Being as happy and content as a man can be, watching it all fly by, like some other man, much more deserving than me. Planes fly overhead. Junkies got no head. Good looking out, the bum says. Freakish yelling in the background in between island love songs and cigarette butts. The blues ring from a Mexican stray who sticks around long enough to dig the rhythms in the wind, carried by a drum circle powwow, every nation, every flag, every race, beating and pounding as one. No one is excluded. It's all one heartbeat billowing in the Pacific breeze, carrying the message of the sun, shining humbly on all of our souls as we dance merrily to the tune of the world, which seems to sing back to us. Hello, my beautiful children. Hello, earth, and all of the life in it. Feels like I'm knocking on heaven's door. It is a mellow dance, a victory lap of love. Every culture thrown into the melting pot of bubbling, free-flowing characters. Flashing processions of bicyclers pass by ringing bells in unison next to the lines of roller skate junkies skating to the beat of their own drum. The soul of my sleeping eyes seems to be focused on everything and nothing at the same time. Everything but the one thing that counts. Where's the love now? The answer is on the corners and sidewalks, sleeping in tents, playing merry songs and painting all day long in the sun. That cold black cloud is coming down. The soul is a tangible thing here. You can catch it on the basketball court, lifting weights or tagging walls in brightly colored spray paint. The soul is passing out food to the needy, guacamole and all kinds of sweets, a long, never-ending celebration of life. Me? Where do I fit in? I'm just a happy fool carrying a pack filled with lucky trinkets, stones, and crystals, garbage hunting the cosmos for something more to help keep this wonderful run of life going. How merry it all seems when one peers into the delirious eyes of the mad dancing Latina who in a frightful spinning frenzy twirls and shakes her pink dress of sequins and sapphires, letting it flow freely inside the safe confines of the drum circle. They bang and play until the sun goes down, screaming, Hosanna! And love all things. There is a force here, uncontrollably magnetic, like the waves of the Pacific that carry even the sane man away to heights unimagined. Through rough and calm waters alike, all is beautiful, both the good and the bad, the lies and the truth, friends and the enemies. They all congregate on the same side of the street, one giant family, living, eating, and getting high together for as long as possible. Amen to the filthy and grimy strangers. Amen to the locals. to the freak shows and everyone else too eager to share their stories of how they reached the ends of the earth. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Meanwhile, back in the present. What do you think of my journal? Did you finish it? I asked Herman. Herman and I are drinking coffee at the cafe again. It's Wednesday. It's already a new year, and the days are going by quizzically fast. He's yet to publish any of my writings, and I've yet to reveal to him the missing pages of the journal. I think you really take the English language by the balls and squeeze, says Herman. Really? That good? As far as writing goes, that's exactly what I was trying to do. You know, push the envelope, give the reader something to chew on. No doubt you definitely did that, he says with a hint of sarcasm, taking a sip of coffee. The story is about survival and making it on your own. It's about how the other half lives. Don't you agree? Don't you ever wonder how people get by with no money? Listen, I understand all that, but I think the real story is about Dr. Phaler. Forget it. I told you I threw those pages away. All that stuff gives me PTSD. Well, the stuff you gave me was just a bunch of flowery jibber-jabber, if you ask me. Perhaps it was just above your head. There's a lot of smart stuff in there, you know, high-level jazz chords, things that only a real literary enthusiast would understand. Oh, I see. And you're saying that I'm not a literary enthusiast? Hardly. There you go again. That's what I'm talking about. Your book is full of pretentious shit. Like you come off as if you're better than everyone else. I just don't want violence and paranoia to be the essence of my work, okay? Wait, you really think I come off pretentious? Yeah, well, you told me to be honest. If I wanted to be belittled and insulted, I'd just call my parents. Thank you very much. I'm your agent, for Christ's sakes. I've read just as many books as you, and I know what sells. Poetry doesn't sell. Government conspiracy sell. Drugs and big breasts in bikinis sell. This is how Van Gogh must have felt. No one respects my vision. That's another thing, man. You gotta stop comparing yourself to artists like that. Oh, wait, don't tell me. Now you have a problem with Van Gogh? You'd probably be one of Newton's dissenters, too. Gravity. Oh, it's an invisible force, sure. Have you been talking to my therapist again? I keep telling you that lady's the devil. I think someone forgot to take their meds today, and it wasn't me, Herman says, shoveling a handful of pills into his mouth. Have you been talking to my therapist again? I keep telling you that lady's the devil. She's not that bad. She cares for you. She cares about your writing. Hell, the way she talks about it, you'd think she was your biggest fan. As for the homeless poetry stuff, it's just too experimental. I don't think people are ready for it yet. Exactly! That's the point! Nothing good ever happened without experimentation. That's what Dr. Phaler was always saying. Don't just believe something is true because someone tells you it is. Find out for yourself. But then again, you have a lot of stuff in there about religion and God and sort of believing in that without evidence. It's sort of hypocritical, man. If anything, my story urges people to make up their own minds, I say. Yeah, I like it. I'll talk to the publishers, but I still need those missing pages. I can't do anything about those. The only way you're ever going to know the ending to the Dr. Phaler story is if I tell you. I destroyed all my writings and notes on the subject for personal reasons. Or at least tell your shrink. I will when I'm ready. I got something more important to talk to you about. What time is it? Herman replies by pointing at the digital clock hanging on the wall of the cafe. 6:09 p.m. Okay, sorry, I got somewhere to be at 7. Shoot, what is it you want to talk about? It's about your zodiac sign. We're not compatible, I say. My zodiac sign? God, no, not this again. Herman rolls his eyes. I don't even know what I am. What am I? You're Cancer. The crab? That's water. I'm fire, so it's just not going to work. You flow, I burn. You just put out my fire, man. That's all there is to it. I can't be around you because you smother me. Smother you with love, you mean? Herman grabs me and gives what is affectionately known as a noogie by grabbing my neck in a headlock and rubbing his clenched fist over my scalp like sandpaper. What's your obsession with the zodiac signs anyway? Herman asks, releasing me from the headlock. I was once told by an ancient shaman that if I slept with a woman from all 12 signs of the zodiac, I would be endowed with magical powers beyond my wildest dreams. It sounds like a bunch of mumbo-jumbo, but I sort of believe it. Like I always told you, sex sells, man. Deadheads don't want money, they want crystals, rare stones, trinkets, and heirlooms. Silver, gold, diamonds, pearls, rubies. I think you just want to fuck a pagan chick. Not one, Herman. 12. Do you have to sleep with all the girls at the same time to get the powers, or is it like over the span of a lifetime? You're missing the point. What's the point? Herman asks. The point is, I'm lonely. I have no one. I've done all this stuff, I have all these memories, and I still feel hollow. Empty inside. Unhappy. They make a pill for that. It's called Xanax. That's your answer to everything, isn't it? Numb your problems? Don't you have any advice? No, you're right. We should all do what you do and write a poem every time we get depressed. Journal entry number 122. Apathy is cake. Impossible dreams stretch into the green stalks in California sunsets. Red rocks. Rio Grande. Running man, back in his place. One and the same. So don't forget the magic that happened. It happened in a flash. If only I could somehow describe the feeling of finding it all. Hunts and dinner pies. Good-looking home bum. Street sweeper. Drug pusher. Down Electric Avenue. Big old dog bit his way through the leash. Caught a wave. Tired old sandy beach. Cold arrow. Sunken footprints. Freedom written in the sand by crabs. Impatience flowers from the black abyss. In time for the day's reward. Have your cake and eat it too. Man with no face only got one shoe. All one, one for all. So you've never seen a Venice sunrise, huh? Well, if you haven't, unfortunately no words will do it justice, but I'll try anyway. At dawn, California is literally birthed in phosphorescent orange, glowing under purple shades of clouds, streaked endlessly by the hand of the great creator against a brilliantly faded green sky. I'm holding a cigarette in my mouth, meditating with my eyes closed, when... Need a lighter? She's looking at me soft and warm. I honestly thought at that moment I had died and gone to heaven. I thought the moment I saw her that I'd somehow snuck past St. Peter's gates and made it with one of the angels. Her hair was electric blue, with matching eyeshadow that shielded pretty blue eyes. She wore her hair tied up in an artistic braid that fit the style of her punk rock rainbow outfit. I am the goddess of war, muse to the 7 angels and rightful heir to the queen of this beach. You must be the Aries girl I was destined to meet. She was smiling in between puffs of a clove cigarette. I couldn't tell if she was serious or not. I've seen you in my dreams before, I said. We were at a party. It was bright with all the lights. We were kissing against the wall and you whispered, "Let's go somewhere quiet." Everything suddenly turned to slow motion. I felt tangled in the web of wide-eyed surfers rushing off in their wetsuits to catch the first waves of the morning. Seagulls cried and sang as they dived in the ocean for their breakfast. A hue of yellow here, touch of silver there, the slow saunter of a stranger awake at dawn, silhouetted in the foggy dew. Hallelujah is playing from a speaker in the background. A plane takes flight, and if one listens close enough, you can almost hear the sound of ancient tribal drums from a time long gone, echoing through the ages. This concrete jungle. L.A. Damn, nice to know ya. Beautiful and callous. Palm tree heaven. You know me, just passing through my miracle van of never-ending love, speeding soon to a city near you. Find a light yet? Hello? You just gonna stand there? She's still staring at me, squinting through the bright California sun. Yes, I mean no, I say. She's holding a flame to my cigarette before I can say another word. See you around, she says, walking away, leaving me quite literally speechless. Thanks, I say, waving doubly goodbye. Present day. I'm listening to the slow ticking clock on the couch in my therapist's office. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. One by one, I feel the seconds pass. I feel the slow creep of the medication. a foggy haze of tongue-numbing exhaustion. My brain feels heavy. I can feel my brain. It's all I can do to take my mind off the numbness. I'm staring at a painting of a beautiful wave breaking at sunset. The water is just suspended there timelessly against the surf. It's a beautifully mesmerizing image. It reminded me of California and of my past. Are you listening to me? Did you hear what I said? I asked you a question, Susan asks. No, I'm sorry. I was just staring at that painting there. Reminded me of something. Oh, and what did it remind you of? Susan asks. Just some girl. Just some girl, she replies, echoing my tone. Well, actually, the girl of my dreams. Are you talking about the girl in your journal? With the blue hair? I keep forgetting you've read my journal. There's still quite a few holes in your story. Stashed away any missing pages lately? I already told you everything. What more do you want? I want to help you share your writings with the world. Go figure. My therapist wants to be my agent, and my agent wants to be my therapist. I just don't want to see such glorious potential go to waste, she says. It's not done yet. I have to finish it. All the details of my journey are included, but it still needs to exist as one cohesive story. Everywhere the reader looks, I want there to be something to find in case they start digging. You know what I mean? You mean you haven't written an ending? I'm beginning to feel nauseous again. I see dozens of tiny spheres of light floating around the room, little round fiery orbs of bliss, like tiny dancing angels or fairies. Hello, are you listening to me? Susan starts snapping her fingers from across the room. I hear you. The story has already ended. I'm here, sitting with you. The journey is over. I'm just trying to live my life in peace. So what's missing? The room is flashing in and out. In my peripherals, I see an ensuing blackness. My therapist's face is shifting forms, 1 second taking the face of the Aries girl with blue hair. Hey, baby, I knew I'd find you here. Why don't you tell me more? Get a grip, I tell myself. I squint through the numbness and start to regain control. Not today, demons. Not today. I want the reader to know contemporary stuff, like how there's been a huge food recall because of E. coli outbreak and the FDA is telling everyone not to eat romaine lettuce. What are you talking about? Susan looks up from her clipboard. The room is flashing in and out. In my peripherals, I see an ensuing blackness. My therapist's face is shifting forms. Seriously, all over the country, grocery stores are throwing out their romaine lettuce by the truckloads. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. More importantly, I want people to heed the warning signs. What warning signs? You mean about ODing? Susan asks. I've lost control. I'm slipping. I feel myself falling. My eyelids have become uncontrollably heavy. Something's not right. I can feel it. I'm losing. I feel drool forming out of the corners of my mouth. People need to know the truth. I can barely make out the words. They come out groggy and mumbly. Tell the truth, then, Susan sneers. That's it. I know for sure I'm dying. Again, this is it for me. I know it. There's no turning back now. Wait a second. Where's heaven? There's no lights anymore, no pearly gates, no St. Peter. Only this black tunnel of eerie silence and indiscernible smells. What's happening to me? Wake up, son. I'm floating now in a dream or something like watching my past drift by. Oh, there I am. Watching myself dream about the first time I fell in love. I remember the scene like it was yesterday. It was the first time I fell in love. The past. He bobs through the clusterfuck of sweat and paint. Where is she? His body is one with the beat, back and forth, weaving expertly in between people, touching each body one by one. I love you, he says to the man with the eyes rolled to the back of his head. And you, he says, blowing a kiss to the girl covered in glow-in-the-dark paint, fluorescent glow sticks. Where is she? He couldn't be happier or higher. The effects of the LSD he took an hour prior are starting to kick in. "I love you," he says again as he ducks past another couple lost to the pulsating music. He takes a deep breath, closes his eyes, and inhales through his nose like a hunter, using all of his senses to find his prey. She is close. Beams of red and green strobes flicker across the faces of an intoxicated crowd. Pop, 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 pop! His heart skips a beat. Balloons burst above his head. Paint is falling from the sky. Girls in tight, colorful spandex and see-through shirts fight back the hungry eyes of testosterone. He feels invincible, godlike. He could have any girl in the house, but he only wants one. Where is she? He continues to move counterclockwise around the vastly growing swarm of bodies. The music picks up pace. The bass gets louder. The sound courses through his veins. The beast is loose. Come to me. He rushes past the people deeper and deeper into the heart of the pit. A hand reaches out and grabs his shoulder. He looks at the girl's face, but the smell is toxic. He can see the rolls of fat bulging out of a girl's bare stomach. He grimaces and shrugs her away. Sorry, babe. You're not the one. Every step he takes is with a purpose. The shots of cheap vodka he drank earlier burn in the bowels of his stomach. He lets the universe direct him. His confidence is through the roof. What brave soul dares look me in the eyes? Who has the courage to peer into the eyes of God? Energy radiates off his body like the sun. Every person he touches bursts into dance up and down, hands in the air synchronized with the beat. Boom, boom, wop, 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 boom, boom, wop, 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 wop. He can sense her energy. He's being drawn closer and closer, and suddenly they connect like magnets, like destiny or fate, as if his whole life had been leading up to this very moment. He steps behind her, thrusting his pelvis into her backside. They connect like puzzle pieces, never missing a beat. She backs up into him, increasing the pressure between their hips. Back and forth, back and forth. She never so much as turns around. She knows he is worthy. They can feel it, both of them. The moment the dance begins. A voice pulls him back to reality. Another man, bearded and tall, pokes his head above the crowd. He spots the duo. Why us? He looks me directly in the eyes. He knows who I am. The bearded man holds something between his fingers, a small glass cylinder no bigger than a thumb. Want some? He lips over the music, extending the container towards the couple. Without a second's hesitation, the girl grabs the container, flicks off the cap, licks her finger, and places it over the open container to reveal a dab of salty white powder stuck to the tip of it. She licks it off, and the powder is gone. She looks back. Their eyes meet for the first time. A flash of red strobe freezes her face like a photograph. She has a nose ring, a murderous smile, and long strands of black hair stuck to her face with paint and sweat. No fear, no hesitation, no trace of doubt or second-guessing. He reaches out and takes the container from the girl's hand and licks his own finger. Time freezes. All that matters is her. He runs his hands up and down her smooth skin, from neck to knees before settling on her waist. He buries his own head deep into the side of her neck. Her head flails backward toward the ceiling. Her touch is ecstasy. Deeper and deeper they fall, into heaven or hell, and out of the reality. His skin starts to crawl. His heartbeat races to catch up with the tempo of the music. His entire body quakes with adrenaline. Goosebumps send shivers down his spine. He kicks off his shoes in one fell swoop as sweat pours off every orifice of his body. The all-too-familiar orgasmic rush of MDMA, also known as Molly, has consumed their being. Drugs, drugs, the magical fruit. The more you take, the more you puke, the worse you feel. That's why I don't take drugs at every meal. There is no stopping them now. The tension is building. The momentum can only go one direction. Up, 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 higher and higher, until they are both lost in love and lust. Every subtle move of her body he can sense. Every tiny step she takes he knows. They become one, all alone, dancing free of vanity and judgment. The world has evaporated. He thinks, I will make you feel sexy. Their vibrations send electrifying shock waves through the crowd. Their love is spreading. Never have these people seen such a dance. Their hands find each other, interlocking forcefully. She squeezes tightly for a second, then releases the pressure over and over again. She drops her hips, massaging his thighs, caressing them up and down. She rocks her head and whispers something in his ear. Did you take any drugs? She asks. Lots of them, he replies. More paint falls from the sky. People jump up and down in slow motion. Strobes, lasers, glowing jewelry, and elaborate costumes take center stage. A voice booms from the speakers. I am the devil. The distorted voice rages on. The time has come. The source of the voice belongs to the flame-bearing performer, covered from head to toe in silver paint, dressed in nothing but feathered loins and a Mayan headdress. It is Judgment Day. In the north, computers are taking over the world. In the east, humans are becoming slaves to their own creations. In the south, people are running for their lives. In the west, you have to choose. You can run, or you can hide. You can talk, or you can fight. But remember, the crowd holds their hands high up in anticipation. Cheers echo off the rafters. A couple is still dancing. Everything you say can and will be used against you. The beat rears its head once again, subtly but deliberate. Red strobe lights match the tempo. The mosh pit is anxious. The hellish voice gets louder and eviler. Can you hear me? Do you know who I am? Can you see me? I live in the dark. I am the devil. Dance with me. You know what I can give you. The beat gets louder, faster, stronger, matching the intensity of the sweating bodies. The crowd wants it, needs it, asks for it, begs. I can't take it. Do it. Drop the bass. Do it now before I explode. I can give you sex. I can give you drugs. And I can give you house. Sex, drugs, and house. Suddenly the bass drops. The crowd goes wild. In one unholy unison, everyone is moshing and dancing to the pulsating vibration echoing off the painted soles and slippery wood floors. Up and down, in slow motion, faces freeze, heads bob, hands wave, sound and light work together to create a deadly mixture of hallucinogens and euphoria, and still the couple dances, never leaving each other's embrace, holding her like only a man can. She is mine, all mine. In the whole world I would have no one else, just her. The love is palpable. A couple grooves for an eternity. And they say our generation can't dance. The dream is ended, the memory fades, and with it my spirit body dims and fades out like a light bulb. The present. Wake up, it's your father. Can you hear me, son? Are you all right? My dad is shaking me awake. Son, it's me, it's your father on Earth. Your mother is right here too. Come back to us, please. Some hours later. Herman is talking to me, but I'm barely listening. I keep staring up at the clouds. It's Thursday now, or maybe it's Friday. All I know is that it's been gray so much lately that I can't even remember the last time I saw the sun. Herman has just given me something called Adderall, a tiny pill designed to help me restore energy and focus. It's basically meth, like it's one molecule away from being meth, Herman says. Is that a bad thing? Not if you like meth. I feel like I have so much to tell you. I'm beginning to feel very stimulated. Go ahead, spit it out. I want a lot of this to be left to interpretation like an impressionist painting, but still revolutionarily groundbreaking language-wise, so that people who don't care about the intellectually stimulating parts can sort of read it mindlessly, taking it for its surface value rather than the heavy emotions it evokes. So I'll have to write it in such a way that where it can be read deeply if a person chooses. The story has to have an underlying message, but not subliminal because that's brainwash. What happened happened. I just chose to leave out the evil parts. You mean the parts about Dr. Failer? I'd rather die than be a supplier of misinformation. Then what do you want your book's message to be? Something along the lines of what Aldous Huxley or George Orwell said. They were warning us of something. Our future is doomed unless we all smash our TVs and revolt. Or there's a possibility the Buddha is already enlightened, only we never know from our incessant consumerism. You know, important things like that. But mostly I just want to blow people's minds. That's what it's all about these days. Blowing minds. I think your message should be don't do drugs. That's funny, coming from you. No, I say don't do too many drugs. There's a big difference. What would God think? I don't know. Why don't you ask him? The wind picks up as I pull my coat collar up around my neck like James Dean. Got any smokes, I ask? I told you I quit smoking. Cigarettes were the worst drug I ever did. Terrible for you. Those things kill you faster than the plague. Herman tells me this while holding a bottle of prescription pills. He pops one of them on the spot. We reach his car as he clicks the remote start and the engine begins to rev. Fancy, I tell him. Hey, by the way, I forgot to tell you, there's this art show at Tony's Gallery with a bunch of my publishing friends. Some folks you can schmooze in the industry. Might be able to help you get your writings published. I told Tony you'd stop by and do a sneak preview. Why would you do that without my permission? Damn you, Herman. Come on, it will be fun. I doubt it. Every time I go to Tony's, all he does is talk about himself in the third person. Flash forward. Painters and writers are different. It's the writer that says, I'm not sure how the power to expand the universe can manifest itself through writing, but see as how I've got this pen in my hand, I'm already in the process, I'll give it my best shot. Where's the painter? The person currently talking my ear off is Tony Moffat. He's basically St. Anthony in an Armani suit. His voice trails off. I whisper into Herman's ear, who is standing on the other side of me. I can't believe I agreed to come here. Herman's jaw's open and he's staring blankly at a small painting of a pizza, where all the toppings have talking cartoon faces. Herman replies in my ear. Tony is a sharp-dressed, hair slicked back, greased up, corporate hotshot who dollops paint in his free time so he can throw these soirees to meet underappreciated housewives desperate for a glory fuck. Exactly. So why are we here again? Tony interrupts us before Herman can answer. What are you gentlemen talking about? You like my work, eh? Tony asks through a practiced smile. I don't know. I think writers and painters aren't all that different. I say through clenched teeth, trying to ignore the fact that Tony has the IQ of a caterpillar. That's because you're a writer. I'm an artist. We say the key to expanding the universe is to see it in our third eye. And writers use their tongues and lips, whereas I use my hands and eyes. The penis is mightier than the sword, I say under my breath. What was that? I didn't quite catch that, Tony asks. I said the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, your third eye is mightier than the pen, and that's where the infinite possibilities are, you see. That's where matter, molecules, down to the very last atom can be felt and interpreted through a series of subtle body indications that might seem separate or to exist exclusively in the realm of the mind, but the truth is that we have a choice as human beings to orient our goals with that of the divine, which in a moment of existential synchronization... He pauses, gesturing toward the 20 by 12 foot abstract splatter art painting hanging in front of us. He's nibbling on a cheese cube held on by a toothpick. Can give power to those thoughts, thus manifesting some sort of universal connection with the person experiencing said medium. You feel me? Looks like a bunch of finger paintings to me, I say. Dig. You gotta transcend the intellect, man, in order to move forward consciously. Hey, what the... Tony swivels around. A young blond man in his late 20s is slouching half asleep, nodding out, holding a fork full of rice. Tony goes over and pokes him with the toothpick he used to eat the cheese cube. You all right, Jeff? Jeff is nodding in and out. His head is bobbing inches away from the bowl of stir-fry noodles and rice. As if stung by a bee, Jeff suddenly jerks awake. What? Huh? I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Just a little tired from hanging all these paintings, you know. It took a lot out of me. Jeff resumes eating his bowl of noodles and rice. Well, you can't fall asleep like that. People might see you and think you're drunk, Tony says, ripping the bowl away. Or worse, bored. In protest, Jeff takes the food back out of Tony's hands. He looks down at the bowl again. Suddenly his eyelids begin to flutter. His mouth is hanging half open, as if hypnotized by some unperceived magic. He's staring deeply at his noodles. They begin to move like worms across muddy soil, filled with carrots and chicken and tiny green pieces of celery. Each vegetable has taken on a face of its own, and they are making their own tiny sound. The carrots whisper, "Go on, take a bite of me. I'm good for your eyes." The tiny carrot is smiling like a cartoon character. The carrot has turned its attention toward a piece of chicken that resembles the state of Texas. "Go on, tell him, Jerry. Tell him how good I am for the eyes." Jerry, the Texas-shaped piece of fried chicken, yawns casually and with an accent that sounds like an Australian who smokes too many cigarettes replies, "How the bloody hell should I know what you're good for? I don't know what your roast is to get eaten anyway." Jeff is still staring wide-eyed at the bowl of stir-fry, rubbing his eyes in a state of confused delirium, unable to process the strange drama unfolding before him. He begins to poke the Texas-shaped piece of chicken named Jerry, apparently to test and see if he's really talking. Jerry exclaims, "Ouch, mate! That bloody well hurts!" Jeff gasps. He looks on the verge of being ready to pass out. He begins to notice all the pieces of chicken have begun mumbling in different octaves of Australian accents. "Are all of you pieces of chicken from down under, then?" asks Jeff. "That's where we were slaughtered," says Jerry. "All of us except Juan here. He's from New Mexico. No one is really sure how he got here." "Hola," says Juan. "He claims he used to be part of a chicken leg, but I think he looks more like ass fat to me," says Jerry. "That's not very nice," says Jeff. "Oh, trust me, he doesn't understand English," says Jerry. Juan pokes his head out from underneath the frothy layer of soupy noodles. "Me llamo Juan." What sounded like mariachi music begins to play in the background. "This is so strange. I've never talked to my food before. I'm usually way too hungry to get to know you first." "Well, whose fault is that?" asks Jerry. Suddenly a loud voice comes from space or heaven, somewhere else. "Jeff, wake up!" Jeff lifts his head from the bowl of stir-fry. A long noodle is hanging from his nose, and there are pieces of rice and chicken stuck to his face, so that he resembles what it might look like to have a rare skin disease. "You all right, man? You passed out into that bowl of noodles," says Tony, laughing. "I did?" asks Jeff. "Yeah, you started talking like you were from Australia, and then plop, face first." "I thought it was funny, too, but I didn't want to say anything," says Herman. "Yeah, me too," I replied, rubbing my own eyes as a reality check. Jeff was still picking noodles off his face, examining each piece individually as if the secret of the universe was written somewhere in tiny lettering in each one. "I think I'm going to become a vegetarian," Jeff says. "Well, I think that's my cue," I say, making motions to leave. "Oh, no you don't. Not so fast. You still got to give these people a reading." "No one here wants to hear poetry from an ex-homeless man. These people wipe their ass with Monet-printed toilet paper." "Just trust me. Follow my lead, will ya?" Herman turns around and walks up to the podium. He taps the mic and gives a bullshit introductory speech about how successful I am, and even throws something in there about a literary award I'd never heard of. No one seems to be the wiser. I approach monotonously when he calls my name, walking through a haze of questioning eyes and wine-drunk housewives. "Thank you, everyone. I can't tell you how interesting it is to be around such a unique group of people. This is truly a one-of-a-kind event. I'd like to give a special thanks to Tony, our host, and his imaginative assistant, Jeff. And also a warm thanks to my agent and editor, Herman, for that very flattering yet completely unnecessary introduction." Laughter. I'm feeling the methamphetamines now. The Adderall is kicking in full blast, and my heart is racing very fast. The words I'm going to share with you today is from my journal, The Story Exactly As I See It, a series of essays and journal entries from my most recent tour of the West Coast. The particular entry, number 133, I'm going to read for you now, was written near Washington State although its context doesn't necessarily refer to any one place. I hope you enjoy. I clear my throat. Behind every door lies a secret no one knows. I pause and cough a second time. It was right then I noticed an attractive young woman walking through the doors to the second-story balcony. She begins doing yoga and taking off her clothes. Wait, she's taking off her clothes? Oh, God. Come on, that's not fair. Focus on the poetry, you idiot. The limits are only our imaginations. The hardest part is always starting something new. It's over before it even started. Oh God, she's naked. She's doing yoga naked. Wow. Behind every door lies an infinite number of possibilities. In the upper echelons of space and time, divided by night and day, the gurus sit meditatively in an eternal posture of good health and fortune. Some lie awake with eyes open as they dream-walk up the treacherous path, past the mass of volcanic ash spilling over the islands, past the trees that grow tall, stretching their limbs toward the horizon, a city beneath the mountain, captured in time, carved from lime, here today, gone tomorrow. Some are frozen in the air, leaping for the sun, while others are crouched forever praising love. And it is there they'll remain, as stone, watching over the land of the dead, warning the living of Mother Nature's dread. Is the yoga girl blowing me a kiss? Wait, did she just wink and blow me a kiss? Oh my good Lord, sweet Jesus, it's all a dream now. A dream of infinite coolness. The road drifts by, an ancient concrete snake slithering through eternity. Ride the snake, I tell myself. The mind is but a tool. The second-story balcony door opens wide, and another young lady walks in and immediately gets naked and starts doing synchronized yoga with the first woman. Oh dear God, now there's two. Come on, focus, you pervert. Ignore the extremely attractive women stretching and read the words you wrote down. Simple. The Creator, wondering his own fate, that faithful architect of whose image we are fashioned. This is the stuff dreams are made of. Carbon-copied particles bobbing in the ether like stardust. For if not for that belief in the minuteness, how could I imagine myself to be anything more than a trifle of bones, rotting across the eons? Then what? What for? Do the problems of today become the joys of tomorrow? Meanwhile, the tiger's jaw tightens, the fists of man clench, and all the light is forever fixed at a new beginning and a new end. Alphabet soup and omega malls. I looked up to the second-floor balcony to my relief to see that both of the young women doing yoga had disappeared. Thank God. And yet I felt a strange mixture of longing and a hollow void in my heart, for the realization dawned on me that they were gone for good. Off to their next impromptu pop-up goddess naked yoga session, I imagine. Free from all distractions, I threw myself into my work. Lurking beneath society's surface, toward the deep end, a saint is selling rehashed Bible verses and quotes out of his guitar case on a downtown street corner, nestled cozily under designer boutiques and coffee shops with new-age hip names like Common Ground or The Bitter End. What does he do it for, you ask? Eternal salvation? Perhaps it's more than that. Perhaps the icing on the cake for mankind is a good drunk off expensive wine in the middle of some lost Pacific Coast highway, the topsy-turvy road stretching and yawning in deep billows of gusty, salty air as the waves tumble gradually in the same repetitious, blissful rhythms for all time. If that's not worth the melancholy of countless days peering out second-rate motel windows, then I don't know what is. Thoughts interrupted. A plane flies overhead. A crow caws. Thunder in the distance. Sun goes down. It's all happening so fast. Ho! Tembear says. The big old Crow Indian Reservation medicine man is burning a sage stick which sends fragrances reminiscent of my past lives floating through my nostrils. He speaks in between deep syncopated breaths in a hollow monotone. His words' meanings are lost. The sound becomes timeless, as if he is not speaking to anything in particular, but everything at the same time, casting prayers to the wind. Father Sky is always gentle, he says. O great turtle mother of the earth, of running pure water, blessed blue river, bring a great harvest of fish and grains to feed your children this season. And the cost are these rainy September mornings, I murmur. I'm dripping from head to foot. It's the 10th day in a row of rain in some godforsaken town off the northern Pacific Coast Highway. I'm far away from home and even farther still from any native tribes, but the medicine man's words still echo in my head. The trip to get here was a long one. Thousands of miles from one end of the continent to the other, with at least a dozen rest-stop vigils, read by yours truly, that spoke of the tribes who came before, tales easily dismissed by full-of-shit tourists and piss-filled truckers, written in faded plaques that tell the stories of those who walked the land long before the white man came and fucked it all up. They tell stories of migration and a hardship nearly unimaginable by today's spoiled standards. Yet, as foreign as it all felt, there was something in those words that still rang true, as if my long-lost ancestors were scolding me for some unrepentant remorse. I hear Ten Bear's voice again, now mixed with animal skin drums and Native American pipes. The body, the frame is but a temporary vessel. Like the shell of a turtle or the fur of a bear, you will lose these things eventually, for they are of the earth. But the spirit is forever. It is of heaven. It is the mighty spirit in the sky. He looks at me with those deep penetrating eyes, and it was then that he looked 100 feet tall. His voice is deep as thunder. Feel the breath of the southern wind. The world is turned to sand and dust. I blink. I rub my eyes. Suddenly the dream is gone, and so is Ten Bear's. Around 3 a.m. I woke up in a sweat, staring around at nothing but blackness and the silhouettes of hotel furniture. A few hours later I sat down at an unnamed diner in the foggy gray dawn. It's the western air out here that makes one hungry, an endless hunger, and a hunger that is only satiated at the very end of the meal when one can slouch back in a comfortable red diner cushioned seat and rub one's tummy with an overjoyed sense of finality, of being done, of cessation of desire, however brief. This time was no different from any of the other dozen or so diner joints I'd been to on the way out here. Only the characters had changed. Instead of the fat Midwesterners in collared shirts trading soft-spoken blurbs, you get twangy mountain accents from burly truck-stop diesel-fueled cowboys, and moody mothers with crying toddlers flinging food. But this, here, it's hard to describe. There's an air of mystery to everything here because of the rain and fog. It's as if everyone comes off as a failed actor, or exiles from Hollywood banished for 1,000 miles in every direction. I give them names. There was the one I call Yoke, who rides in roaring on all cylinders on his prized hog machine from hell. Call it a Harley or Yamaha or whatever. From far away, it might as well be a broken garbage disposal. It's the loudest, meanest bike of all time, and he's wearing a black cut-off vest and ripped blue jeans, walking in as the door chime rings with those heavy-booted footsteps. He has a crude cut, of course, and a